Chapter 1. Welcome to the Paradox: Why Smart Traders Still Fall. If you listen carefully for the next 10 minutes, you might finally understand why intelligent, well-prepared traders, people just like you, keep making the same painful mistakes in the market. Because this isn't just about strategy, it's about the mind behind the strategy. Welcome to Why Smart Traders Still Make Dumb Decisions. You're in the right place. You see, if you've ever found yourself thinking, I know exactly what I should have done, but I still didn't do it, then this audiobook was made for you. Maybe you felt that sinking feeling after closing a trade too early, watching price move exactly where you knew it would go. Or maybe you've doubled down after a loss, telling yourself, I'll get it back. You've read the books, you've studied the charts. You're not reckless, you're rational. But when it's your money on the line, logic seems to disappear. That's the paradox we're here to break. Mark Douglas, one of the greatest voices in trading psychology, once said, "The consistency you seek is in your mind, not in the markets." It's not that you don't know how to trade. It's that you haven't yet learned to trade yourself. And that's exactly what this audiobook will help you do. Over the next few chapters, we're going to rebuild the foundation of your trading psychology. We'll go deep into the patterns that silently sabotage even the smartest traders, the fear that sneaks in during volatility, the revenge that hides behind confidence, and the illusion of control that tricks you into thinking you can predict the unpredictable. But first, let's talk about you. Because every trader starts with the same dream: freedom, independence, control. Yet, ironically, the pursuit of control is what causes most to lose it. Let's be honest, you're not here because you lack knowledge. You're here because deep down, you know that knowledge alone isn't working. Maybe you remember a time when your analysis was flawless, the setup was perfect, your confidence high, and still the trade went wrong. And instead of calmly accepting it, you felt that emotional burn, that need to fix it, prove it, win it back. That's not ignorance, that's emotion. And emotion, not logic, moves your mouse, clicks your button, and decides your fate. Jesse Livermore, one of the greatest traders of all time, made and lost fortunes multiple times. He once said, "The game of speculation is the most uniformly fascinating game in the world. But it is not a game for the stupid, the mentally lazy, or the emotional." Notice that last word, emotional. Livermore wasn't warning against being dumb. He was warning against being human. Because human emotion is what makes smart traders act irrationally. It's not a weakness, it's biology. And if you can learn to understand that biology, you can finally stop fighting it and start using it. Think about it. How many times have you told yourself, next time I'll be more patient? And then you weren't. Or how many times have you said, I'll stick to my plan? And the moment the candle turned red, you panicked. You're not broken. You're simply wired like every other human being, to seek pleasure, avoid pain, and protect ego. Trading just happens to expose all three simultaneously. What you'll start to realize throughout this audiobook is this: success in trading isn't about predicting markets. It's about managing yourself when you can't. It's about learning to stay calm when fear shouts louder than reason. It's about understanding that the market doesn't owe you anything, and that revenge trading never fixes emotional pain. You'll learn how to stop reacting and start responding. How to turn your mind into your greatest edge, not your worst enemy. So right now, take a breath. Let go of your last loss, your last mistake, your last moment of regret. None of that defines you. The fact that you're here listening means something important. you've already started the transformation. And in this journey, I'll walk with you, not as a guru, but as a fellow trader who's felt the same emotional storms you've faced. You're about to rediscover what true consistency feels like, not in your strategy, but in your state of mind. So before we move to the next chapter, I want you to ask yourself something. When was the last time you made a trading decision out of emotion, not logic? Think about that moment. What did it feel like? What was really driving it? Fear? Pride? Hope? Drop your answer in the comments after you finish this chapter. You'd be surprised how many traders are fighting the same inner war you are. In the next chapter, we'll peel back the first layer of this paradox. We'll explore why logic fails the moment real money meets real emotion. You'll learn how your brain tricks you into believing you're in control, and how that illusion silently destroys even the smartest portfolios. Because remember, it's not the market that defeats you. It's the mind that refuses to adapt. So stay with me, keep your headphones on, and let's step into Chapter 2, The Illusion of Control.
Chapter 2. The Illusion of Control. Listen for the next 10 minutes, and you'll understand one of the most dangerous psychological traps in trading: the illusion of control. It's the quiet voice that says, "I can figure this out. I can make the market do what I expect." It sounds logical, it feels confident, and yet it's the reason even the smartest traders fall apart. Because the truth is, you can't control the market. You can only control yourself. But the brain hates that truth. When we step into the world of trading, we're entering a space where logic and emotion collide at full speed. On paper, trading looks simple: buy low, sell high, manage risk. But the second you put real money on the line, your logical brain takes a back seat, and your emotional brain grabs the wheel. The market doesn't test your knowledge, it tests your relationship with uncertainty. And here's the twist. Smart traders, the ones who love analyzing, optimizing, and controlling every variable, often suffer the most. Because intelligence creates an illusion. If I can understand the system, I can control the outcome. But the market isn't a system to be controlled, it's an environment to be adapted to. Let's talk about why this illusion feels so real. The human brain is hardwired for patterns. When something good happens, a green candle, a winning trade, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. That's your reward chemical. It feels great, right? But here's the problem. Your brain starts to believe it caused that reward, so it keeps searching for more patterns, more signals, more ways to predict the unpredictable. You start tweaking your indicators, adjusting your risk, testing new strategies, and every small win reinforces the illusion that you're in control. But what you're really feeding is your own overconfidence. Let's look at a real story, one that perfectly captures this illusion at its peak. Back in the late 1990s, a hedge fund called Long-Term Capital Management, or LTCM, was the pride of Wall Street. It was run by some of the most brilliant financial minds on the planet, including 2 Nobel Prize winners in economics. Their models were so precise, so mathematically advanced, that many believed they had cracked the code to the markets. They weren't gamblers, they were scientists. They believed risk could be calculated, controlled, and managed into submission. For a while, it worked. They generated enormous returns, steady, predictable, elegant. Until the day it didn't. When the Asian financial crisis hit, followed by Russia's debt default, the markets went completely off script. The patterns their models depended on vanished. Volatility exploded, liquidity evaporated, and in a matter of weeks, LTCM lost billions. These weren't rookies. They were the smartest people in the room, and yet they fell for the same illusion you and I fight every day. They believed the market had to behave rationally. They believed logic could contain chaos. It couldn't. That's the danger of certainty. When you become convinced that you stop adapting. And when you stop adapting, you stop surviving. Traders don't blow up because they're dumb. They blow up because they mistake confidence for control. The market doesn't care how smart you are, how detailed your analysis is, or how many hours you spent backtesting your system. It only rewards those who can flow with uncertainty, not fight it. Here's something wild. Neuroscience proves this. When you take a trade, your brain experiences a chemical surge similar to gambling. Each tick in your favor gives you a little dopamine kick. It's addictive. But here's what's worse. Your brain starts to predict the reward before it happens. It builds a sense of false control, a belief that your skill caused the success, even when randomness played a role. That's why traders get frustrated when a perfect setup fails. Your brain expected control. The market reminded you you never had it. And that's where fear, anger, and revenge trading are born. Not from ignorance, but from loss of illusion. Let's be real. How many times have you said to yourself, this trade has to work. Everything lines up. And then when it didn't, you couldn't let it go. You added size, you averaged down, you doubled the risk. Because deep down, you weren't trying to make money anymore. You were trying to restore control. And that's the moment every trader must face. The moment when you realize the market doesn't care about your plan. It doesn't care about your prediction. It doesn't even care about your logic. It only reacts to pressure, fear, liquidity, momentum, things you can observe but never command. There's a quote from Paul Tudor Jones that every trader should write down somewhere. Don't be a hero. Don't have an ego. Always question yourself and your ability. Don't ever feel that you are very good. The second you do, you are dead. That's not self-doubt. That's survival. That's emotional flexibility. Because the moment you think you've mastered the market will humble you in ways you never imagined. If you truly want to evolve as a trader, here's what you must do. Trade with awareness, not control. Accept that randomness isn't your enemy, rigidity is. Your edge isn't in knowing what happens next, it's in staying emotionally neutral when you don't. Once you embrace that, you become something most traders never achieve. Adaptable. And adaptability is power. Now I want you to think about this. When was the last time you tried to force a trade? When was the last time you thought, this has to work, and it didn't, and you couldn't let it go? Share that moment in the comments if you're brave enough. Not to expose weakness, but to acknowledge truth. Because awareness is where growth begins. In the next chapter, we're going to explore something even more subtle. How winning itself can become your greatest danger. We'll talk about the dopamine trap, how success can rewire your brain to crave excitement instead of consistency, and why chasing that emotional high can destroy your discipline. Because sometimes the worst thing that can happen to a trader is winning too soon. Let's move into Chapter 3, the dopamine trap, when winning becomes dangerous.
Chapter 3, the dopamine trap, when winning becomes dangerous. Listen closely for the next 10 minutes, because what you're about to learn could save you from one of the most silent and seductive traps in trading, the dopamine trap. It's the hidden addiction that makes even smart traders destroy their own discipline. It's why a few wins can feel like rocket fuel right before you crash. If you've ever gone on a winning streak, felt unstoppable, and then suddenly gave it all back, this chapter will show you why. Because sometimes the worst thing that can happen to a trader is success. Let's start with something simple. When you win a trade, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical that fires when you eat something delicious, win a game, or scroll through social media and see that little red notification light up. Dopamine is the brain's feel-good currency. It rewards you for achieving something, but it doesn't care what that thing is. It only cares that you got a hit. So when you win a trade, your brain lights up. You feel sharp. You feel in control. You feel powerful. And here's where it gets dangerous. Your brain starts craving that feeling more than the result itself. You stop trading to make money. You start trading to feel good. Every trade becomes a slot machine pull. And even if you know the probabilities, the logic, the math, you can't stop chasing the high. It's subtle. You don't even notice it happening. You start increasing your position size because you're on fire. You skip your risk rules because this setup is too good to miss. You convince yourself you're just confident, when really, you're addicted. This is the same loop that drives gambling addiction. In psychology, it's called variable reward reinforcement. It means your brain gets hooked on unpredictable rewards, the thrill of not knowing whether you'll win or lose. That uncertainty is the drug. Here's the irony. The same chemical that once helped humans survive, that push of excitement when hunting, building, achieving, now tricks traders into emotional self-destruction. In the beginning, dopamine rewards your effort, but once you attach it to random market outcomes, it hijacks your logic. You're no longer making decisions from discipline, you're making them from desire. Let me tell you a story that perfectly captures this. It's the story of Nick Leeson, the trader who broke Barings Bank, one of the oldest and most respected financial institutions in the world. Leeson started as a young, ambitious trader in the early 1990s. He was sharp, confident, and obsessed with proving himself. At first, he was good, really good. He made profitable trades and quickly gained trust and freedom from his superiors. But then, small mistakes began to appear. Losses that should have been cut early weren't. Instead of admitting them, he hid them. And when he made a few wins afterwards, the dopamine hit felt even stronger, like redemption, like proof that he was as good as he believed. Every time he covered up a mistake and got away with it, his brain rewarded him. It wasn't about money anymore. It was about maintaining the illusion of control, the rush of being right. Soon, those little errors turned into massive bets. Each win kept his confidence alive, and each loss made him double down even harder. By the time it all came crashing down, Leeson had lost over $1.3 billion, bankrupting the 233-year-old Barings Bank. So what happened? It wasn't stupidity. It wasn't lack of intelligence. It was addiction to the emotional high of being right. He couldn't step back. He couldn't detach, because dopamine had taken over. And if you're honest, maybe you felt a smaller version of that same rush. You hit 3 winning trades in a row and start thinking you figured it out. You feel invincible. Then one bad day wipes you out,
and you sit there asking, what just happened? That's the dopamine trap. It builds confidence too fast and takes it away twice as hard. Here's what you need to know. Dopamine isn't bad. Without it, you'd have no motivation at all. But uncontrolled dopamine, that's chaos. That's the difference between trading for mastery and trading for excitement. The best traders in the world understand this. They don't chase the high, they chase the process. Paul Tudor Jones once said, "Every day I assume every position I have is wrong." That's not self-doubt. That's emotional control. He refuses to let his brain turn a win into an ego trip. So, how do you break free from the dopamine loop? Start by noticing how you feel after a win. Do you immediately want to trade again? Do you feel restless when you're not in a position? That's not intuition. That's withdrawal. You've built an emotional dependency on stimulation. The cure isn't another trade. It's learning to sit in stillness. Every time you take a break instead of jumping back in, you're rewiring your brain to detach reward from randomness. You're training your mind to crave discipline, not dopamine. Remember this, the goal of trading isn't excitement, it's consistency. You don't win by being the most energized trader. You win by being the calmest one in chaos. When you feel the urge to overtrade, that's your signal, not to push harder, but to pause, breathe, and recalibrate. Trading success doesn't come from the thrill of victory. It comes from emotional neutrality, that quiet confidence that doesn't spike when you win and doesn't collapse when you lose. I want you to think about something, and maybe even comment after this chapter. What's your dopamine trigger? Is it the moment you hit buy? The moment you see green profit numbers? Or the moment you prove yourself right? The more honest you are about what drives you, the easier it becomes to take back control from your emotions. In the next chapter, we're diving into another emotional storm, one that tricks even disciplined traders, the fear of missing out. We'll uncover why the crowd's excitement can override your logic, how the market manipulates your social instincts, and why patience, not speed, is the trader's ultimate advantage. Because the next psychological trap isn't about winning too much. It's about being terrified of missing the win altogether. Let's step into Chapter 4, the fear of missing out, when logic meets panic.
Chapter 4, The Fear of Missing Out, When Logic Meets Panic. Listen for the next 10 minutes because this one emotion, FOMO, is quietly wrecking more trading accounts than bad strategies ever could. If you've ever jumped into a move just because everyone else is making money, if you've ever felt your pulse rise while watching a chart rocket without you, then this chapter will change the way you see the market forever. Because the truth is, markets don't just move prices, they move people. Every trader knows that FOMO feeling, the itch, the heat, the racing thought of, "I can't miss this." It's not logic, it's emotional gravity. The pull of the crowd is powerful. It makes you forget your plan, your rules, and even your own analysis. One second you're patient, focused, and the next you're smashing the buy button, praying you're not the last one in. Why does this happen? It's not because you're weak. It's because your brain is wired that way. Inside your brain are tiny cells called mirror neurons. They activate when you see someone else doing something, and they make you feel like you're doing it too. It's how humans learn, how babies mimic, how crowds synchronize. But in the market, those same neurons are a trap. When you see others winning, screenshots, profits, hype, your brain fires up as if you just won. That dopamine spike makes you want to join in, to belong, to not be left behind. It's not greed, it's survival. Because thousands of years ago, being excluded from the group meant danger. Today, it just means you missed a trade, but your brain doesn't know the difference. That's why even experienced traders get pulled into herd behavior. It's not lack of knowledge, it's biology colliding with money. Let's rewind to one of the greatest FOMO storms in modern history, the dot-com bubble of the late 1990s. The internet was exploding, and everyone wanted in. From Wall Street analysts to cab drivers, people believed this was the new gold rush. Companies with no profits, sometimes not even real products, were getting billion-dollar valuations overnight. Everywhere you looked, someone was making money, and the message was loud and clear. If you're not in tech stocks, you're missing the future. FOMO became culture, and even the smartest investors got sucked in. Then, it all collapsed. Billions vanished, retirements were wiped out, and the same people who shouted, "You can't lose," disappeared in silence. Fast forward to 2017. Different era, same story. Bitcoin. The rise was unbelievable. $1,000, then $5,000, then $10,000. People mortgaged their homes to buy it at $19,000 right before it fell. Why? Because they didn't want to be the one person who missed the next big thing. It wasn't analysis. It was panic disguised as opportunity. And that's the hidden face of FOMO. It doesn't whisper logic. It shouts emotion. Here's the thing most traders never realize. You don't lose money from missing opportunities. You lose money from chasing them. FOMO convinces you that being late is better than being out. But the best traders know sometimes the most profitable move is no move at all. Think about that. How much money have you lost not because your analysis was wrong, but because you couldn't wait? There's an art to waiting without anxiety. It's not laziness, it's power. Patience is the sharpest edge a trader can own. Every great trader, from Jesse Livermore to Warren Buffett, preaches the same thing: the discipline to wait. Because waiting filters noise. It separates emotional impulse from rational opportunity. Patience isn't about doing nothing. It's about letting the market come to you. When you force trades, you're reacting to emotion. When you wait for setups, you're responding to truth. Here's something to try next time you feel FOMO creeping in. Ask yourself one simple question. If this trade wasn't moving right now, would I still want it? If your answer is no, then it's not your strategy talking. It's your anxiety. Markets don't reward the fastest thinker. They reward the calmest one. There's a quote from trader Paul Tudor Jones that fits perfectly here. He said, "Don't focus on making money. Focus on protecting what you have." That's the opposite of FOMO. It's grounded thinking in a world of chaos. When you stop reacting to noise, you start hearing your own voice again. You realize that missing one trade doesn't matter because there's always another one coming. But when you give in to FOMO, every missed move feels like the last chance. That's how traders spiral. One impulsive entry leads to one emotional loss. And suddenly, you're not trading the market anymore. You're trading your frustration. So here's the hard truth. If you ever feel like you're late to the party's already over. The next time you see everyone hyping a move, remember this: the crowd buys euphoria. The pros buy fear. Don't be the trader chasing fireworks. Be the one preparing quietly before they even light the fuse. Let's make it real. Ask yourself, and maybe even drop it in the comments, what's the last trade you took just because everyone else was in it? Did it end the way you hoped? Or did it teach you the cost of chasing? These reflections matter because awareness is the first step to mastery. When you can sit out a move and still feel calm, that's when you've leveled up. That's when you're no longer moved by the crowd.
You move with the market, on your terms. The real flex in trading isn't catching every move. It's staying emotionally neutral when others lose their minds. In the next chapter, we're going to face the darker side of that emotional cycle. What happens after the loss? When your logic cracks? When your ego takes the wheel? When you hear that inner voice saying, "I'll get it back." That's the beginning of revenge trading, the ego's final stand before total burnout. We'll explore the psychology behind it, the story of Jesse Livermore, the man who lived and died by his own emotions, and how to build emotional reset rituals that bring your power back. Stay tuned, because understanding revenge trading might just save you from repeating the same painful mistake twice. Let's move into Chapter 5, Revenge Trading, the Ego's Final Stand.
Chapter 5, Revenge Trading, the Ego's Final Stand. Listen closely, because the next 10 minutes might save you months, maybe even years of emotional pain. If you have ever blown up an account trying to get it back, this chapter is for you. We're going deep into the psychology of revenge trading, the silent destroyer of confidence, capital, and clarity. By the end of this, you'll know exactly why it happens, how to stop it, and how to rebuild emotional control when your ego is screaming for payback. Every trader has lived this scene at least once. You take a loss, a bad one. Maybe it wasn't even about the money. It was about being right. You watched your setup fall apart, your stop hit, your analysis crumble. And then that voice shows up, the same one that whispers in every losing trader's ear. "I'll get it back." That's not strategy talking. That's your ego waking up from its nap and grabbing the wheel. The ego hates being wrong. It doesn't care about your trading plan, your psychology, or your long-term consistency. It wants redemption now. So what happens? You open another position. You double your size. You take trades you'd never touch on a normal day. You're not trading anymore. You're fighting. And the market? It doesn't care who wins. Revenge trading feels powerful in the moment. You're angry, but you feel alive. You're determined, but you're reckless. That rush, that intensity, tricks your brain into thinking it's control. But it's not. It's emotional debt. And every revenge trade is just another swipe on your mental credit card. Let's take a look at a man who lived this truth harder than almost anyone, Jesse Livermore. He was one of the greatest traders of the early 1900s, a legend. He made and lost multiple fortunes. His life was a roller coaster of brilliance and breakdowns. Livermore could read the tape like few others. He made millions shorting the market during the Panic of 1907, and again during the Great Depression. But after every victory came the same pattern: overconfidence, emotional trading, and collapse. Why? Because even Livermore, one of the smartest minds to ever touch a chart, couldn't silence that inner voice that said, "You can't let the market embarrass you." He didn't lose to bad setups. He lost to ego. And that's the same enemy you're fighting today. Think about it. How many times have you broken your own rules right after a loss? How many times have you said just one more trade as if the market owed you something? Here's the harsh truth. The market doesn't owe you a dime. It doesn't care how good your analysis was or how long you've studied. It's not personal. But your ego makes it personal. That's why revenge trading feels so emotional. It's not about profit. It's about pride. Let's talk about the neuroscience behind it, because there's a reason your brain goes haywire after a loss. When you take a big hit, your stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, spike. You enter fight or flight mode. But since you can't physically fight the market, you try to win back control. That's what revenge trading really is, a desperate attempt to escape the feeling of powerlessness. The problem is, those emotions flood your decision-making center. They narrow your focus, shorten your patience, and amplify risk-taking. You're not trading logic anymore. You're trading pain. So how do you break the cycle? You don't fight ego with more ego. You disarm it with ritual. Here are a few emotional reset techniques that top traders use when they feel that revenge impulse kicking in. 1. Step away from the screen. Literally, stand up, walk, breathe. Create physical distance before you create more emotional damage. 2. Write down what happened. Put it on paper. What triggered me? What rule did I break? What was I trying to prove? This isn't punishment. It's self-awareness in action. 3. Cool down time. Every pro athlete has recovery periods. Traders need them too. No new positions for 24 hours after a major emotional trade. Let the chemistry settle before you touch risk again. 4. Talk to your future self. Seriously, write a short note like, "If you're reading this, you're angry. Don't make it worse." It sounds silly, but when your emotions flare, logic disappears, and this gives your rational mind a fighting chance. You know who does this better than anyone? The traders who accept loss as part of the game. They don't take it personally. They don't assign moral value to being right or wrong. They understand that losses are tuition. They're the cost of learning in a game that never stops teaching. Let me ask you something. What's worse, taking a small loss and walking away with clarity, or doubling down and losing your peace of mind for days? Drop your honest answer in the comments, because that reflection might be your first real step out of the revenge loop. Here's the golden rule of emotional recovery. True traders don't seek revenge. They seek understanding. When you analyze instead of react, when you breathe instead of chase, you start seeing patterns, not punishment. And that's when trading transforms from chaos to craft. So next time that voice whispers, "I'll get it back," remind yourself, you don't need to get anything back. You just need to get back to yourself. Because the best revenge isn't another trade. It's the discipline to wait until you're centered again. And that's exactly where we're headed next, into the foundation that separates emotional traders from consistent ones. In Chapter 6, we'll talk about discipline over drama, how structure, journaling, and emotional routines can turn chaos into calm. We'll break down how the best in the world, traders like Paul Tudor Jones, use discipline as emotional armor, not restriction. So if you're ready to rebuild consistency and stop letting emotions run your day, join me in the next chapter. Let's turn your discipline into your edge. Chapter 6, Discipline over Drama, Building Emotional Consistency. Listen for the next 10 minutes, because this chapter is where traders stop hoping for consistency and start building it. If you've ever caught yourself saying, "I know what to do, I just don't do it," then this is the missing piece you've been searching for. By the end of this, you'll understand why emotional chaos creates inconsistency, how to train like an athlete for mental control, and how to make discipline your emotional armor, not your restriction. Let's start with a hard truth. Most traders don't lose because their strategy fails. They lose because they fail to show up the same way every day. One day they're calm, the next impulsive. One week they follow their plan perfectly. The next, they throw it out the window after one losing streak. That's not a strategy problem. That's a state of mind problem. Trading doesn't demand perfection. It demands consistency under pressure. And consistency only comes from structure. Think about how athletes train. They don't wake up and say, maybe I'll practice today if I feel inspired. They have rituals, habits, systems. They stretch, warm up, review their last performance, then execute. Not because they love repetition, but because they know that emotion fades, routine stays. And that's exactly how elite traders operate. Paul Tudor Jones once said, "The most important rule of trading is to play great defense, not great offense." He wasn't just talking about stop losses or risk management. He was talking about discipline. Defense is what protects your mind from yourself. It's what keeps you stable when the market tries to drag you into chaos. Every trader wants freedom. But real freedom in trading doesn't come from doing whatever you want. It comes from building habits that make you unstoppable. Let's break it down. There are 3 pillars to emotional consistency: structure, reflection, and regulation. Structure is your daily trading routine. Reflection is how you learn from your own patterns. Regulation is how you manage emotions before they manage you. When all 3 are aligned, you become unshakable. Let's start with structure. Here's what most traders get wrong. They think discipline means restriction, like a diet that cuts out everything you love. But discipline in trading is the opposite. It's what frees you from chaos. You build your structure like an athlete preparing for game day. Before you trade, you warm up, not your hands, your mind. Maybe it's 5 minutes of quiet breathing. Maybe it's reviewing your setups while you sip coffee, or writing down your emotional state before you even open a chart. Ask yourself, am I calm, am I focused, or am I trying to prove something today? That one check-in can save you from 1,000 bad decisions. Now, reflection. Journaling isn't just for rookies, it's for pros who take their psychology seriously. After every trading day, write 3 simple things: what went well, what didn't, how I felt. That third question, how I felt, is gold, because your emotions leave patterns long before your account does. If you notice that your biggest losses come when you're tired, distracted, or angry, that's not coincidence. That's a data point about you. Trading journals aren't just about setups. They're about self-awareness, the most profitable skill no one teaches. And then comes regulation. This is where you control the emotional spikes that make traders spiral. When you're stressed, your body floods with cortisol. Your vision narrows, your breath shortens, your judgment collapses. You literally lose access to the part of your brain that makes rational decisions. That's why emotional traders keep repeating the same mistakes. They're not even operating from logic anymore. The antidote? Emotional cooldowns. After a big win or loss, step away. Take 10 minutes. Move your body. Breathe deeply. Let your chemistry settle before your next trade. A professional trader once told me, "I don't take another trade until I can feel my heartbeat slow down." That's not poetry. That's precision. The goal isn't to eliminate emotion. It's to create space between feeling and action. That space, that half-second gap between impulse and decision, is where every great trade is born. Most traders react. Disciplined traders respond. And the difference between reacting and responding is the difference between chaos and control. Let's be real for a second here. You're not always going to feel motivated. Some days you'll question your system, your progress, even your ability to keep going. But if you've built your structure, if you've trained your emotional muscles through routine and reflection, then discipline will carry you when motivation won't. You'll trade calm in chaos. You'll choose patience over panic. And you'll stop letting one bad day define your entire week. So here's a challenge for you. And if you're listening right now, I want you to drop your answer in the comments. What's one habit you could add tomorrow that would make you more consistent?
It doesn't have to be huge. Maybe it's writing your emotions before every trade. Maybe it's closing your laptop for 5 minutes after a loss. Maybe it's setting a time to walk away for the day no matter what. One small routine can change your entire trajectory. Because structure doesn't limit you, it liberates you. You see, the drama fades when discipline shows up. And when you finally learn to respect your process more than your emotions, the game shifts. Trading becomes less about chasing wins and more about mastering yourself. That's emotional consistency, the quiet power that builds wealth in the long run. In the next chapter, we're going to take that journey even deeper, into the mind beneath the mind. We'll talk about the mirror of self-sabotage, why so many traders subconsciously block their own success, and how your beliefs about yourself quietly write your trading results. We'll explore the hidden fears, unworthiness, and control issues that cause traders to repeat the same losses over and over again, and how to rewrite those inner stories for good. Because you don't trade the market, you trade your beliefs. Let's dive into Chapter 7, The Mirror of Self-Sabotage.
Chapter 7, The Mirror of Self-Sabotage. Listen closely for the next 10 minutes, because this chapter might sting a little, but it could also save you years of frustration. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I keep doing the same stupid thing even when I know better? If you've ever had a winning streak only to blow it up a week later? Or if you've ever caught yourself sabotaging success the moment it starts to feel real, then this is your wake-up call. Because what if the problem isn't your system, or the market, or even your timing? What if the problem is the story you believe about yourself? By the end of this chapter, you'll understand why smart traders self-destruct, how fear of success hides behind self-doubt, and how to rewire your inner dialogue to stop trading against yourself. Every trader talks about market psychology, but few talk about self-psychology. The market is just a mirror. It reflects your deepest beliefs about money, control, and worth. And when you stare into that mirror long enough, you'll start to see something uncomfortable, the version of you that doesn't believe you deserve to win. Let me tell you something that might shock you. Some traders don't fear losing, they fear winning. Because winning brings responsibility. Winning raises expectations. Winning forces you to face the pressure of maintaining success. And for some people, that's scarier than loss. So what happens? They unconsciously trip themselves up. They break their own rules. They take one more trade they didn't plan just to give back what they made. It's not stupidity. It's subconscious self-preservation. I remember a trader I coached years ago. Let's call him Michael. He was sharp, disciplined, and talented. But every time he'd double his account, he'd suddenly blow it. Every time. When we dug deeper, we found out something powerful. Growing up, his father told him, money changes people. Rich men become greedy. That belief stuck. So every time he got close to wealth, his subconscious mind sabotaged him, because deep down he didn't want to become the greedy man his father warned him about. Once he realized that, everything changed. He reframed that story into, money amplifies who I already am. He began journaling that affirmation every morning before trading. Within months, he wasn't just more profitable, he was calmer, because his inner world finally matched his goals. You see, every trader has an invisible thermostat, a level of success they subconsciously believe they deserve. The moment they rise above that comfort zone, their mind pulls them back down to where they belong. If your self-image says, I'm a break-even trader, you'll keep proving yourself right over and over. That's why no strategy, No mentor and no fancy indicator can save you until you change what you believe about you. Let's break down the three biggest forms of traders' self-sabotage: fear of success, unworthiness, and control issues. Fear of success is sneaky. You start winning, and suddenly you feel pressure to maintain it. You tighten stops too early. You exit trades out of anxiety. You subconsciously avoid the weight of success by creating failure. Unworthiness says, "Who am I to make that much money?" It's guilt disguised as humility. You might even start comparing yourself to others, like they've been trading longer, they're smarter, they deserve it more. That belief will bleed into your decision-making until you rewrite it. And then there's control. Traders who can't control their emotions often chase the illusion of controlling the market. They overtrade. They revenge trade. They try to bend the market to their will instead of accepting its uncertainty. Control issues aren't about charts. They're about fear of chaos. The moment you stop trying to control the market, you start mastering yourself. Now, here's the part most people skip. You can't outsmart self-sabotage with logic, because it's not logical, it's emotional. You have to go inside and rewrite the script. So how do you do that? With three tools: affirmations, self-dialogue, and visualization. Let's start with affirmations. And no, not the cheesy kind where you stand in front of a mirror pretending to be Tony Robbins. I mean targeted, specific affirmations designed to rewire your trading beliefs. For example, I am disciplined and calm under pressure. My wins are safe because I earned them. I can handle success with responsibility. Affirmations don't work because they're magic. They work because they give your brain a new pattern to follow. Say them out loud, write them down, or repeat them before trading. They're small, but they reprogram the autopilot that drives your behavior. Then comes self-dialogue. That's the voice inside your head while you trade. You know the one, the critic, the doubter, the scared kid screaming, "Don't mess it up." The next time you hear that voice, don't fight it. Acknowledge it. Say, "I hear you, but I'm in control now." That simple phrase tells your subconscious who's really behind the wheel. And finally, visualization. Every elite performer uses it, from athletes to CEOs. Before market open, close your eyes. Imagine yourself sitting calmly, focused, confident. Imagine making a mistake and responding with patience, not panic. Visualize yourself following your plan from start to finish. Your brain can't tell the difference between imagination and reality. You're literally training your nervous system to behave like the trader you want to become. Let me share another real story. There was a trader named Sarah, brilliant with technicals, but emotional with outcomes. She'd nail setups only to exit early every time. Her reason? "I get nervous when the trade works too well." When we unpacked that, we discovered her subconscious belief, "If I win too much, I'll lose it later. Better to take profits early." She wasn't trading her system. She was trading her fear of disappointment. Through journaling, meditation, and affirmations, she began rewiring that fear. She visualized herself staying calm in green trades. She wrote daily, "I trust my process more than my emotions." And week by week, her profits and her peace began to grow. So let's turn the mirror to you. What belief could be sabotaging your trading right now? Is it fear of success? Fear of loss? Fear of judgment from others? If you're listening right now, drop your answer in the comments, because awareness is step one to breaking the pattern. Remember this: you don't trade the market. You trade your beliefs. Your account is a reflection of your subconscious, not your strategy. And once you start upgrading your self-image, your results will start upgrading with it. In the next chapter, we'll take this inner transformation one step further. We'll talk about reprogramming your mind from reaction to reflection. You'll learn how to catch emotional impulses before they control you, how to build awareness in real time, and how traders like Ray Dalio built mental systems to outsmart emotional bias. Because emotional awareness isn't a personality trait, it's a trainable skill. Let's dive into Chapter 8, Reprogramming the Mind from Reaction to Reflection. Chapter 8, Reprogramming the Mind from Reaction to Reflection. Listen carefully for the next 10 minutes, because what you're about to learn could completely change the way you trade and the way you think. If you've ever felt your heart racing during a trade, if you've ever watched a candle spike and instantly clicked buy or sell without thinking, if you've ever asked yourself, why can't I stay calm when I know what to do? This chapter is your blueprint for taking back control. By the end of this session, you'll understand how to pause between emotion and action. You'll learn practical mindset exercises that actually work in real market conditions. And you'll see how one of the greatest investors of our time, Ray Dalio, built mental systems to outsmart emotional bias. This isn't about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming emotionally aware. Because emotional awareness isn't a personality trait. It's a trainable skill. Here's the truth most traders never face. You don't lose money because of bad analysis. You lose money because of bad responses. It's not the market that breaks you. It's your reaction to the market. The market spikes and your brain floods with cortisol. Fear hijacks logic. Suddenly, you're not trading your plan. You're trading your emotions. That's the moment where great traders separate from average ones. They create a gap, a tiny pause between emotion and action. And that small gap changes everything. Think about this. A market candle moves fast, maybe 1 second, 2 at most. But your mind moves faster. In a fraction of a second, your brain builds a story. I'm missing out. I need to act. I can't let this move get away. That story triggers adrenaline. And once adrenaline kicks in, logic leaves the room. But what if you could recognize that moment, catch it mid-flight, and instead of reacting, just observe? That's where mindfulness enters the game. Now, don't roll your eyes when you hear that word. Mindfulness isn't sitting in silence with incense burning. It's mental self-defense. It's the art of noticing your emotion before it turns into a decision. It's the difference between clicking buy in panic and saying, wait, what's happening inside me right now? When you learn to do that, you stop being a puppet. You become a player. So let's talk about how to build that pause. I call it the 3-second audit. Whenever you feel the impulse to trade, especially in a rush, you silently ask yourself 3 questions. What am I feeling right now? Is this emotion based on my plan or my fear? If I act now, will I be proud of this decision in 10 minutes? That's it. 3 seconds. But those 3 seconds rewire your brain from reaction to reflection. Because every time you interrupt an old emotional pattern, you're teaching your brain a new response. That's neuroscience, not philosophy. You see, your brain is constantly rewiring itself through neuroplasticity. That means the more often you respond calmly to stress, the easier it becomes to stay calm in the future. You're literally training your nervous system to see volatility as neutral data, not danger.
It's the same principle athletes use before big games. They visualize, breathe, and slow their response time so pressure feels normal, not terrifying. Let me give you something practical you can do right now. A technique used by elite traders and even Navy SEALs. It's called box breathing. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out, 4 counts hold again. You can do it quietly at your desk. You can do it before hitting that order button. It lowers your heart rate, clears your mind, and resets your state in seconds. This isn't woo-woo. This is biochemical control. And when the market's going wild, this skill becomes your edge. Now let's talk about someone who mastered emotional systems better than almost anyone else, Ray Dalio. Ray Dalio didn't just build Bridgewater Associates into one of the world's largest hedge funds. He built an operating system for thinking. He knew that emotions and ego were the enemies of performance. So instead of pretending he could always, quote, stay calm, he designed systems to protect himself from himself. He built algorithms to make decisions when emotions ran high. He encouraged radical transparency inside his firm, where anyone could call out emotional bias, even in him. Dalio once said, "Pain plus reflection equals progress." And that's exactly what he practiced. When something went wrong, instead of reacting, he paused, reflected, and extracted the lesson. That pause became his superpower. You might not run a billion-dollar fund, but you can build your own mental algorithm. Here's how. Name your triggers. What consistently makes you emotional in trading? FOMO? Losses? A missed setup? Write them down, not to judge them, but to understand them. Create response rules. For every trigger, define what you'll do instead. If I feel FOMO, I take 3 deep breaths and step away from the screen. If I feel anger, I close my platform and journal the trade. Reflect after sessions. Ask, what emotion led me to my worst decision today? That reflection is where real progress happens. You can't reprogram what you refuse to acknowledge. Now, let's be real. No one stays calm 100% of the time. Even the best traders lose control sometimes. But mindfulness isn't about perfection. It's about shortening recovery time. It's about catching yourself one trade earlier, then one emotion earlier, then one thought earlier. Over time, your reactions slow down, your awareness speeds up, and the chaos of the market starts feeling like music instead of noise. That's when you start seeing the market instead of feeling it. I'll tell you something that most people never realize. You can't be both emotional and observant at the same time. Try it. You can't feel rage and curiosity simultaneously. The moment you become curious, the emotion loses power. So when the market moves against you, instead of asking, "Why me?" ask, "What's this teaching me?" That one question moves you from victim to student, from reaction to reflection. Here's a challenge for you, and I want you to drop your answer in the comments when you're done listening. Tomorrow, during your trading session, I want you to notice one emotional impulse. Maybe it's excitement, fear, or impatience. When it hits, don't fight it. Just observe it. Label it. Say to yourself, that's fear. And then breathe. That's the moment your rewiring begins. Remember, you can't control the market, but you can control the space between stimulus and response. That space, that pause, is where your power lives. And when you learn to operate from that space, you stop reacting like a gambler and start reflecting like a strategist. In the next chapter, we'll explore what happens when you take meta-awareness even deeper, into a state of total detachment and flow, We'll talk about the psychology of elite traders who operate without ego, fear, or even thought. You'll learn how detachment leads to clarity and why Bruce Kovner said, once you have a position, you forget your opinion. Because when you reach that level, you stop fighting the market and start moving with it. Let's step into Chapter 9, The Silent Edge, Emotional Detachment, and Flow State.
Chapter 9, The Silent Edge, Emotional Detachment, and Flow State. Stick with me for the next 10 minutes, and I promise this chapter will shift the way you see trading forever. By the end of it, you'll understand what it feels like to trade without ego, without fear, and without the constant noise of doubt pulling at your mind. If you've ever felt trapped by your own emotions in the market, if every trade feels like a roller coaster you can't control, this chapter is your introduction to flow, the state where clarity, calm, and confidence converge. We're talking about the silent edge. It's the invisible advantage that separates elite traders from the rest of the pack. Let's start with a simple truth. The less you need to be right, the more consistently you win. Sounds counterintuitive, right? Most traders are addicted to being right. They chase confirmations. They double down to prove themselves. But the most successful traders, people like Bruce Kovner, Paul Tudor Jones, and countless others, don't operate from the need to be right. They operate from presence, from observation, from flow. Kovner once said, once you have a position, you forget your opinion. That's profound because it reveals the mindset of detachment. Once you're in the trade, your ego doesn't matter. Your past bias doesn't matter. All that matters is the market itself and your plan. So what is flow in trading? Flow is that state when logic, patience, and humility converge. Your mind isn't cluttered with what-ifs. Your emotions aren't hijacking your decisions. You're simply present, reading the market as it is, and acting with calm precision. Elite traders reach the state not by suppressing emotion, but by mastering it. They've internalized discipline to the point it becomes second nature. They've practiced reflection and mindfulness until impulse loses its grip. They trust their systems, not their feelings. Here's a practical example. Imagine two traders watching the same price action. Trader A panics when a candle moves against him. Trader B breathes. He observes the movement. He doesn't resist. He doesn't force a trade to make it back. Trader B's mind is quiet. Trader B doesn't think about being right or wrong. He simply responds with clarity. That's the silent edge. It's invisible to the casual observer, but it's devastatingly effective. Let's tie this to humility. The ego wants control. The ego wants to prove itself. The ego wants to win every argument, including the one against the market. Flow state, by contrast, requires humility. You acknowledge the market is bigger than you. You accept that uncertainty is part of the game. You detach from the need to be the smartest person in the room. When humility and patience merge, trading becomes a quiet act of power. Here's a story about an elite trader. Let's call him David. David was a master of the markets, but early in his career, he couldn't let go of being right. He overtraded, he argued with the market, he burned through capital and confidence alike. Then he discovered flow. He began practicing detachment. Every trade was an observation first, a decision second. He stopped judging outcomes emotionally. He stopped taking losses personally. Within months, David's performance skyrocketed, not because his system changed, but because he changed. That's the power of the silent edge. When your mind becomes the calm in the storm, everything else follows. So how do you start cultivating this? First, detach from the outcome. Your focus should be on process, not profit. Treat every trade like an experiment, not a test of your worth. Second, practice observation. Notice your emotions, your thoughts, your impulses, but don't act on them immediately. You're training your mind to separate feeling from action. Third, integrate patience. Flow doesn't happen in a rush. It's cultivated through repetition, through consistency, through trust in yourself and your plan. Here's a question to reflect on. Which trades are you emotionally attached to right now? And what would happen if you approached them with curiosity instead of attachment? Leave your answer in the comments, because awareness is the first step towards detachment. Remember, the silent edge isn't about suppressing emotion or detaching from reality. It's about operating above the noise. It's about blending logic, humility, and patience into one quiet, unstoppable state of power. And when you do, your trading becomes less about proving yourself and more about mastering the game itself. In the next chapter, we'll take everything we've learned, emotional awareness, discipline, mindfulness, flow, and connect it to the bigger picture. We'll talk about the awakening, from smart to wise. You'll see the full evolution of a trader, from chasing profits to mastering the self, from reacting to reflecting, and from ego-driven trades to truly strategic moves. We'll revisit the key principles we've built together, and I'll show you how to make this knowledge a permanent part of your trading life. Let's step into Chapter 10 and complete the journey. Chapter 10, The Awakening, from Smart to Wise. Listen closely. This is the chapter that ties everything together. If you've been following this journey, by the end of the next 10 minutes, you'll understand not just how to trade, but how to think, feel, and live like a truly wise trader. This is about transformation, moving from smart to wise, from reacting to reflecting, from chasing profits to mastering self. Let's start by looking back at the path you've traveled. Chapter 1, Awareness. You recognize that being smart doesn't protect you from emotional traps. You saw the paradox. Intelligence alone cannot prevent dumb decisions. Chapters 2 through 4, Understanding Emotional Pitfalls. The illusion of control, dopamine traps, FOMO, all moments where the market exposes our deepest vulnerabilities. Chapters 5 through 7, Reclaiming Yourself. Revenge trading, building discipline, confronting self-sabotage. You began rewiring your beliefs, your rituals, and your mindset. Chapters 8 and 9, Mastery in Practice. Mindfulness, pausing between emotion and action, cultivating flow. You learned how to operate from a state of calm clarity. And now, Chapter 10, Integration. Here's the hard truth many traders never see. Being smart is temporary. Being disciplined is temporary. Being skilled is temporary. Wisdom is permanent. Wisdom is knowing when to trade and when to wait. It's knowing that the market isn't personal and that your self-worth isn't tied to every green candle or red candle. It's recognizing that every trade is a reflection, not just of the market, but of your beliefs, habits, and emotional state. Let's bring this to life with a story. Bruce Kovner started small, like most traders, but what separated him wasn't just his edge in the market. It was his mindset. He learned to detach from outcomes. He learned to trust the process more than his ego. He treated every trade like data, not drama. That's wisdom. And wisdom compounds, just like profits. The journey from smart to wise has a rhythm. Observe yourself. Know your triggers, your beliefs, your emotions. Reflect on experience. Every loss, Every win is a lesson, not a verdict. Apply discipline. Structure your trading like an athlete trains. Routines, rituals, checks. Practice detachment. Flow emerges when ego and fear step aside. Integrate and evolve. Your strategy, your psychology, your lifestyle, all working in harmony. Here's the insight that ties it all together. Control, emotion, patience, belief, reflection. These aren't just trading concepts, they're life concepts. Every lesson we've covered applies beyond charts and screens. They guide how you handle risk, uncertainty, and pressure in every corner of your life. So how do you carry this forward? First, re-listen whenever your emotions rise. Your brain forgets faster than you think. A spike of fear, FOMO, or ego can undo months of progress if you let it. Second, subscribe and join the Psych-Rich community. You'll have a continuous feed of insight, strategy, and psychology to sharpen your edge. Third, embrace the mission. Traders mastering mind before money. Because money is a tool. Discipline, awareness, and flow, that's the real capital. Those are the things that compound over time. Let's close with a cinematic reflection. Imagine yourself at your desk. The market moves, but you don't flinch. You trade with clarity. You trade with patience. You trade from a place of quiet power. The noise fades. The chaos fades. And all that remains is your process, your mind, your wisdom. This is the awakening. Not just to profit, but to mastery. Not just to the market, but to yourself. So here's your challenge. When you finish this audiobook, carry it with you. Re-listen on tough days. Journal your insights. Notice the moments when your mind wants to run and instead pause. Become a trader who operates with wisdom, not just skill. Because at the end of the day, the journey from smart to wise is the most profitable trade you'll ever make. Welcome to the Psych-Rich way. Your mind is your greatest asset. Master it, and everything else falls into place. This is your awakening. Step into it.